I turn on the camera to film and Meryl just immediately starts howling at me. She won't jump up on my lap. She'll just sit there and meow, meow, meow until I pick her up. So last October, I went and had a little food sensitivity test and I updated you guys on my little experience with the naturopath. And I wanted to give you an update since it's been many, many months since. I've been meaning to do this for a really long time, but every day May seems to be a good time to do it. So I did just film my workout routine update and chat, and I wanted to update you guys on my little food journey for those of you who have been following along. So this was my little food sensitivity test that I had done. And so many of you had a lot of things to say in the comments of that video when I posted it, mainly saying that these things aren't accurate tests, that it would be much better to see a registered dietitian or a nutritionist, things like that. And I think that was the whole point of me going to see a naturopath, was that it was me looking for an alternative or a different opinion. I had just seen a lot of people talking about these food sensitivity tests and I just wanted to get it done. I had talked to a few people in my life who I knew that had it done and they were able to find some really great answers, and it was just something I wanted to try. I always take these things with a grain of salt. It was something that I was going to test out for a period, and basically what I had done is I went and got my blood work done. They give you this food sensitivity test and it basically shows you foods that you may or may not be sensitive to, things that may be causing inflammation in your gut and whatnot. And the one thing that she did mention when I got this done is that foods that show up in the red may also just be foods that you consume a lot of. So this was taken very much with a grain of salt, but I think that if you are aware of what you're eating and kind of in tune with how your body responds, a lot of the things I already knew were causing me sensitivity. And keep in mind, like, one thing to note, this isn't a food allergy test. This was a food sensitivity test. So I just wanted to get this done to just see if my little hunches or my assumptions were right. I just wanted to kind of like have something for me to follow for a period of time and see if that would make me feel better. So I was kind of addressing just like multiple like gut issues, just like discomfort, bloating, reactions in my skin, just like years ongoing fatigue. I just wanted to see if doing this sensitivity test and doing an elimination diet would kind of answer any of those questions that I had and address some of the issues that I had going on. So I went and got my blood work done, did the food sensitivity test, got this lovely little list. And the whole point was to follow that for 6 weeks, do a 6-week period of eliminating the foods in the red or like as many of the foods as possible, but mainly eliminating the foods in the red and the yellow, doing a follow-up blood test, and then slowly reintroducing things to see how you react to them. So it wasn't like a forever, I will never eat eggs again, you are allergic to eggs. It wasn't that. It was like a period of time to be able to eliminate certain things from my diet and see how I felt when I reintroduced them in the future. So you guys are probably gonna be so annoyed with me for those of you who watched that video, but basically like I felt a little bit disheartened when I did post that video and I saw so many of your comments basically like pooping on this food sensitivity test. Even though I knew it was something I wanted to do, the reaction definitely just made me feel like poopy about it, I guess, if I'm being completely honest. But I did go ahead and do the elimination diet. I completely like went through my pantry, went through the fridge, did a huge overhaul and really like changed my eating habits and tried to follow it to the best of my abilities for the 6 weeks following. Now we did have a little trip in there. I know I ate some eggs because there was no other option in terms of protein, but for the most part, I really did stick to it. And a few of the things that I noticed when doing this, like following this elimination diet, my skin was glowing. My skin was so happy. It was also right around the time where I had started introducing some of the new like ZO products and the serums and whatnot. It was also when I started the BBL laser treatment. So there were a lot of things happening at the same time, like right in that October, November period, right before Christmas. But my skin was glowing. I was feeling so good. And that was a huge thing I noticed. Like the biggest thing I noticed was the difference in my skin. But the main thing that I was wanting to deal with was the fatigue. I wanted to know if there were certain foods that I was consuming on a daily basis that were keeping me in this like inflamed and very tired state. And I guess like the benefit to that elimination diet, the biggest one was my skin. I didn't really notice a dramatic impact on my tiredness or my fatigue, even though one of the top things in my red zone was coffee, like the coffee bean specifically. And so there was a hot minute where I was drinking a lot of matcha and I was drinking some black tea and I wanted to see how that made me feel. So during the elimination period, and I guess now following, it just really made me rethink how I was eating and kind of like restructure my meals. I really started to like meal prep and meal plan more. Like, hello, Barbacoa beef. This is where the love for that came in. I really just tried to take like my food intake a little bit more seriously, and I've just like thought about it a lot more on a daily basis, I guess. I don't really know how else to explain that, but there are a few major changes that I have done in my diet since doing this food sensitivity test and elimination diet. Whether or not you believe in it, you really do have to go by your own feeling and your gut. And there's just a few practices that I took from this. So no, I am not following this completely anymore. I did not treat this as an allergy test. I did take everything with a grain of salt, but there are a few big changes that I have made in my diet. So I guess I can just like go through a few of the biggest things that I've learned. One was eggs. Like, if you guys have followed me for a long time, you'll know how much I love eggs. I'm a breakfast gal. I ate eggs every single day for breakfast. If I could have eaten eggs for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, I would have, but it's definitely something I knew I had a sensitivity to it. And it's actually a very common food sensitivity for people, whether or not you're allergic to it and if it's gonna have like really major impacts on you in the future. Listen, when I eat eggs, I do experience some discomfort in my belly and I get really bad farts, like really, really bad, stinky, uncomfortable gas. And if your body's struggling to digest something, then that's just something to take note of. So even if I'm not allergic to it, even if it's not going to kill me and if it's not going to have a major impact in my daily life, I know the slight discomfort that I feel when I eat eggs. So I wanted to try and alter my breakfast and my eating habits to reflect that. So for breakfast in particular, a few of the things that I started doing was having like a little apple cider vinegar, or I'll have some pineapple if I can have some, just to like start it out. And that was a recommendation from the naturopath, and that has made my like mornings and my gut feel really nice and happy. It just, I don't know, I feel good for it. And I've just replaced my egg breakfast with oatmeal, and that's actually been a really nice way for me to like get some good fiber in. I put my flax seeds and my chia seeds and I make it delicious. I'll have my chocolate protein sometimes and make a little like peanut butter chocolate protein delicious oatmeal bowl. Like, there's a lot of fun you can have with oats for sure, and it's a really great way for me to get my fruits and my fiber in, baby. So that is a big thing. I have replaced my breakfast. I no longer eat eggs and or egg whites every day. But that being said, I don't restrict myself when it comes to eating eggs. It's just no longer a part of my daily food intake routine, I guess. But I definitely love to go for brunch. I love me an eggs Benedict. And also, eggs are just like a really affordable and excellent meal to have if you are wanting to keep an eye on your protein intake and make sure that you're getting enough. And it's really quick, it's easy, it's a super versatile food. And I just love eggs. Like, I love eggs, I love the flavor, I love eating them. And it's not something I'm willing to remove from my diet like forever and for all time, but it's definitely just something I've reduced in my diet since then. So for those of you who message me when I post my little weekend brunch on Instagram, yes, I am still eating eggs occasionally, just not every day. It's no longer a part of my everyday eating, I guess. Another thing that I wanted to talk about was the coffee, because I had removed coffee for quite a long period of time following this elimination diet, and it's something that I really wanted to keep track of, because something that I've noticed with coffee is it really is coffee specifically that makes me feel some type of way. It's not the caffeine. So that was like a big comment and a very common message that I got from you guys following that was like, how did it go with removing the coffee from my daily life? And obviously, as you guys have seen, and if you've been watching the last few vlogs, like, yes, I've been back to my protein coffee, and that's because I didn't really notice a huge difference. I just really missed it. I was drinking matcha, I was drinking black tea, and I just felt like I love the social aspect of coffee. I love to go for a coffee. I like crave a coffee. I love an iced coffee. I love my protein coffee. I just enjoy the experience of coffee. So I was like, how can I just make this affect me less? And the one thing that I noticed that I did a lot was I would wake up and drink my coffee on an empty stomach. And I do feel like that just made me feel a little bit queasy. I would like instantly, sorry, this is TMI, but I would like instantly have my morning coffee poo, and it wasn't nice. It was like diarrhea. Like, I just knew that that was making me feel not the best. So when I do have my morning coffee, I just make sure to have some food beforehand. I'm not drinking my coffee on an empty stomach. And I feel like that's helped big time. Like, I can definitely tell when I have the shakes and whatnot, or if I've had too much coffee or just too much caffeine in general. But that was the biggest notable change, I guess, was no more coffee on an empty stomach. I've got to eat something first. So I will make my little coffee, but I am having something beforehand, whether it be my oatmeal or whatever else I'm eating for breakfast or a snack or something. I'm having coffee with food or after food. And for my belly, that has had a really good impact. So I did slowly reintroduce coffee to really like monitor how I felt. And I think that was the biggest change that helped with that. In my like red and yellow foods, there was a lot of nuts and beans and things that showed up. And I think that's very common for a lot of people. Like, you know, beans cause a lot of tooting and excess gas in a lot of people. I think that's just very common. So I did take note of that. I have definitely been eating a lot less. Like, I used to love making my like Mexican inspired like bean corn, like guacamole bowls and whatnot. And I definitely have like made a huge reduction in that meal consumption in my daily life. I've kind of replaced it with like my salmon bowls that I love to make, which I'm going to talk about later, but I have definitely like reduced my general bean intake. And I've always felt that way. Like if I eat a lot of beans or if I eat a lot of chickpeas, there's certain things that do just make me feel a little bit more like gassy and uncomfortable. And so just kind of taking note of that when I am making my weekly and daily meals. But for the most part, the rest were things that I already didn't consume a lot of. Like I already didn't consume a lot of dairy in my daily life. Like, listen, I love cheese. I love cheese so much. I love cream cheese. I love hard cheese. I love string cheese. I love mac and cheese. Like any cheese really is quite a deep love in my soul. It just hits different. And for a long time I was eating like the vegan cheese alternatives. I would have like the Daiya slices and the Daiya mac and cheese and all these things. But then you look at the ingredient list and like how overly like processed these things are, like how much oil all of these products contain. I'm just like, listen, what's the lesser of two evils here? You know, how does this really make me feel? Am I feeling that much better by consuming all this like laundry list of ingredients versus just like me just having the cheese? So in general, I don't buy a lot of dairy products at home and I don't make a lot of cheese, but like when it comes to having family gatherings or like friends over, and if I make a charcuterie board, or I'll sprinkle the occasional feta in my like Greek salad, you know, like I just keep it really, really minimal. But dairy is something that I've like had an allergy to my entire life, and I do notice a huge impact when I'm removing it from my diet in my like gut and belly health, but also my skin. Like last night I had a giant bowl of ice cream with Reese's Pieces mixed up into it, and I wake up with a little rash and I don't feel good, and I know how my body reacts to dairy, so it's not something I needed to like reconfirm. I know that my body and my skin and my energy levels are better when I have dairy removed, so I try to keep it out of my daily eating as much as possible. So I guess those were like the major food groups and things, the major changes that I made. Like it wasn't many, but it was still something very interesting to just have tried and done. And I'm glad that I tried it and I could see how I felt. And I feel like I've made a lot of positive changes in my meals and what I've been consuming and how I look at like my food preparation and my grocery shopping and whatnot. It was just like a really interesting thing to have done and experienced. And this really just ties into my whole like workout journey and my like lifestyle changes journey, because I've really been trying to have a different approach to food in general and really trying to, you know, focus on my vegetables, my fruit, and my fiber and my protein intake, because that all ties in together. If you have like food and health and wellness goals, like it's all combined. Like you can put on as much makeup and skincare as you want, but if you're eating like crap, that's going to show in your skin and your energy levels in your life. So I've really just been kind of trying to consume and absorb as much information as I can around it. And I feel like I just love food so much, and I show a lot of food in my channel and my vlogs and on Instagram, and I love food. I love cooking. I feel like I have such a little passion for it, even though I'm incapable of following a recipe. I just have so much fun when it comes to food and meal preparation and cooking, and I love to enjoy life through food. Like, oh my God, when I travel, like food is just everything. I love food so much, and I love flavor. I love spices. I love sauce. Like there's just a lot that I'm not willing to part with. But at the same time, I try to do that in such a healthy way when I'm cooking my meals at home. And I've really come to passionately fall in love with my weekly meal lineup. I just feel like I have these core meals that I make on a weekly basis and that I rotate in and out of my eating schedule and that I just love so much and I'm very passionate about. One being barbacoa beef, which I'm sure you guys are so sick of me talking about now. I made a highlight of it on my Instagram because I got so many messages from you guys asking me for the recipe. And there's just things like that where I'm meeting all of my like macro, protein, fiber, blah, blah, blah goals when it comes to like the fitness and the healthy routine, but they're also just delicious. So I try to like make as many delicious meals as possible while still following like a general guideline of health. I've already been blabbing for so long, but I hope that makes sense. I am not a professional. I am not a dietitian. I am not a nutritionist. So much of what I eat is based off of feeling, and then obviously doing a few little fun little tests like this. But in general, where my current food journey stands, I try to eat a lot of whole foods. I try to cook as many meals as possible at home and really like keep an eye on added sugar and like really long ingredient lists. I try to stay away from as many like super overly processed things as possible when it comes to my home cooking, but I still love to make my meals delicious. I have a few food groups that I try to avoid, and I also really keep that all in moderation because I love McDonald's. I love McDonald's so much. I love blizzards. I love ice cream. I love eating out. I love trying new food. So I try to just keep a really good balance of it all for my sanity and my mental well-being, you know? I really just try to like walk the line of moderation when it comes to the food. And you know, when I travel and I eat a lot of crap, you know, go to weddings and eat dessert and eat all of the good things, like my skin explodes. Like I have an instant reaction in my body and my energy, and it's just like such a noticeable thing when you are consistently eating healthy, like how much better you feel for it. So I just try to constantly remind myself of that. And at the same time, treating myself as often as I wish to my double patty junior chicken from McDonald's. So it's kind of just like going with how I feel and what my soul and body crave in that moment. So there's a really long update for you. That's my blab. That is an update on where I'm at with that little food journey that I did. That being said, I did film a few of my favorite recipes as I was making them last week, and I wanted to share them with you here today. So just like a handful of my favorite go-to recipes that I've really been into in cooking lately, I did film and I did want to show you guys here. So like my barbacoa beef, my delicious little salmon bowl, also my like go-to favorite salmon meal, just a few of my favorite meals I wanted to show you guys. So I have filmed that. I'm going to play that here for you now if you are interested, and hopefully this will have a home and you guys can refer back to it if you ever want to know how I make my barbacoa beef. So my friends, I'm going to cut back to that footage and show you a few of my favorite go-to recipes that I eat all the time. So when you Google barbacoa beef recipe, all the recipes that show up are for slow cookers. I just Googled a little Dutch oven conversion because that is what I have, and it's worked for me thus far. I've had no problems using a little Dutch oven, and it's also a lot faster to do in the oven. So I preheat the oven to 325, and usually like I set a timer for 3 hours, and most of the time it's fine. So whatever you want to use, you can just Google the conversion. I'm going to link the recipe that I referred to in the description box down below. And when it comes to the beef cut, to be honest, like I don't really know. When I go to the grocery store, all the recipes say to use a chuck roast, but every time I go to the grocery store, I've never seen anything that says a chuck roast. So I don't know what's up with that, but I often go for the boneless top sirloin roast. Usually I get the one that has the cap off, but they were out of that, so I'm just gonna cut this little cap off. It's a little bit annoying and takes a little bit longer for me to prepare, but I don't actually know the differences between the beef cuts. This is just the one that's there. So this is the one I buy. I'm gonna chop this up, and then I do not measure anything. I just throw everything into this little pot. I start with olive oil. I'll put that into the little, into my little oven here. And then I chop up the onions and the garlic. I throw that in. I get the little chipotle peppers in adobo sauce. I chop that up and put it in. Sprinkle some lime juice in there. Then for the spices, it calls for salt, pepper, ground cumin, which I put a ton of cumin in. I love cumin. It calls for oregano, and then also some cloves. I just sprinkle a couple of cloves in there, whatever you're feeling. And then I will chop up the beef, throw it in, try to like mix it around with all the spices, and then I add in the beef broth, and I just pour the beef broth in to like just cover the meat, and then I'll sprinkle in some bay leaves. And the bay leaves aren't included in every recipe that I've seen online, but I like it. Then I put it in the oven, set a timer for 3 hours, and 3 hours later you are left with positively delectable, delicious barbacoa beef. So the barbacoa beef is in the oven and it should be ready for dinner. Very excited about that, but let's talk about lunch. I'm going to show you how I make my current little go-to salmon bowl, and I've made variations of this over the years. Mangoes were back at Costco and I was so excited. I love mango. I love mango so much. So Costco was also out of my usual little frozen salmon. I love to buy the bag of frozen salmon. It just means that there's no waste. And I can pull things out of the freezer as I need it, but I did just pick up a little salmon here. So let me show you how I make my salmon bowl. So the first thing I'm gonna do, I've actually grabbed a pot and I'm just going to chop up some zucchini, which I've grabbed, and then I also have some broccoli. I'm gonna put that into the pot to steam first. So while that's having a little steam, I've actually just decided that I'm going to chop up all the mango and put it in a container because that will make my salmon bowls throughout the week much easier if the mango is chopped up. Okay, the mango is all chopped and ready. Next, I'm going to make the little sauce for the salmon. Allow me to reiterate that I am not a measurer of things, so I'm just going to rattle off what I throw in here, and then when you make your mix, you can do it to taste. So I do some maple syrup, then I put in some soy sauce. Right now I have these coconut aminos. It works the same, soy sauce. I put in some rice vinegar, some fish sauce, some garlic, some ginger. Then I have a little chili garlic sauce, and I also finish off with some lime juice. Usually I also have sesame oil, but I completely forgot to pick it up, and that's okay. It'll taste just as great in the end. So I throw that all in the bowl, and then I mix it up, and then I'm gonna cube up the salmon, chop it all up into nice little cubes, throw that into the mix, let it sit for a couple of minutes, and then once everything else is done, I will put it in the frying pan and cook it up, and then I will begin to build my bowls.
What you got here? People are dying. We need to get back there.
Finished. Trolls massacred everyone in the past. Look, I already faced.
And that is my delicious little salmon bowl. So depending on what I have in the fridge, I will do this with salmon, or I will do this with shrimp. Sometimes I do Cajun shrimp. Sometimes I make it like a poke bowl, and I'll do tuna and like cucumber, and I won't do any of the warm stuff. I'll just make it like a nice cold bowl. It's really good so many different ways, but one of my favorite meals that I've consistently made for a couple of years now, and it's really, really delicious. So it's time to remove the barbacoa beef. It has been 3 hours. And in the meantime, I took all of the extra broccoli and zucchini that we made, and I sectioned it off into containers here. I've got 4 containers. I'll probably need more, but that's just how much of the veg that I had. And normally with my meal prep with the barbacoa beef, I like to do little rice noodles with it, but the grocery store was out of stock of the rice noodles. So I also have my banza noodles that I love so much. These are the chickpea noodles, lots of extra protein. So I'm gonna do it with these. I don't know how it's gonna taste, but I need to cook up these noodles. I will add them in there, but in the meantime, I'm gonna take the barbacoa beef out. I need to separate it. You pull all the meat out of the pot, separate it with forks, you know, do a little flaking action, and then I like to take all the juices out. I leave all of the like bay leaves and big chunks of onions and whatnot in the pot. I take all the juices out and let the beef sit in that for a while and soak in the juices. Here's the finished bucket of barbacoa beef. Oh my God, it turned out perfectly. Perfectly. But nothing is complete without a taste test. I mean, come on. It is so good, and there's so much flavor in this. I'm absolutely obsessed. Okay, I'm gonna let this sit and soak into the juices for a little while, and then when I come back, I'll put it into all of the containers with the noodles, and that will be my barbacoa beef prep done for the week. So the barbacoa beef is all packed up. I have put it in the containers with the noodles and the veg. That one little piece of beef made 5 meals. That's gonna be perfect for Dan and I for a couple of days. That's gonna be it for today. See you tomorrow. Tonight I'm going to show you another one of my favorite salmon recipes. When I tell you that we eat this, like listen, barbacoa beef usually I'm eating for lunch, okay? And then we eat a lot of salmon. We eat a lot of salmon in this house. I love salmon. Dan loves salmon. It's good for your soul. It's good for your body. It's good for your skin. And it just tastes so damn good. And this is one of my favorite recipes to make. I have made it for all of our friends and family. It is a maple Dijon lemon salmon. It is literally so easy to make, and you can make it in 20 to 25 minutes depending on how thick your little fillet is. This week's Costco trip really screwed me without my little frozen salmon fillet, so I went and picked up another little fillet. I don't prefer these because they have the skin on. I do like it without the skin, which is why I love those frozen packs so much. But alas, we have fresh salmon. We can't complain about that, my friends. So I'm gonna put this on the tray and I'll show you what I put on the fillet. I'm gonna take the tin foil and make a little boat around it. And this is so that when the baking is going on and it's all done, all the sauce is gonna stay soaking in here and it's going nowhere. Now for the sauce. It's very important to note here that I don't measure things. I really go by taste and also just with the frequency at which I make this meal. So add each ingredient with your own discretion. So you can cater this to your own taste profile if you wish, but I'm gonna try and give you my approximate amounts. We're gonna squeeze the juice of half a lemon. A dollop of maple syrup. A scoop of grainy Dijon mustard. And another scoop of Dijon mustard. Salt and pepper to taste. And whisk. Taste it. It's so good. Then we're gonna take our lovely little saucy concoction and pour it onto the salmon. And just take that little fork and spread it all over. Sauce is contained. It's in the castle walls. I've preheated the oven to 400 degrees and I'm gonna set a timer for 20 minutes because this is a more thin fillet of salmon. So I'm gonna plop it in. Set a timer for 20 minutes.
20 minutes starting now.
Perfect. Now for the side vegetable of tonight's meal, I'm gonna cook up some asparagus. I literally steam this in a pan with water and salt and pepper, and that's it. I've also prepared a little pot of couscous on the side. I can't express it to you enough that this is perfect every time. Et voilà, the maple Dijon lemon salmon. You guys, if you love salmon, you must try this. It is truly so, so good. So those are a few of my favorite recipes that I've just been loving right now. I really do go in and out of phases when it comes to food, so I'm happy to update you as I find more delicious recipes in the future. If you guys try any of the recipes that I share and love, I would love to hear what you guys think and if you find them equally as delicious and delectable. And I just wanted to, yeah, sit down and have a chat with you guys and update you on my little food journey. So I hope that this was insightful and I'm super curious to hear if any of you have had a similar experience to me, if there are any other topics related to the whole food journey and health and whatnot and meals and cooking, anything you guys want to see from me, I'd love to hear from you. Please let me know in the comments down below. So my friends, I'm gonna end the chat there. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. My random little blab about food, but here's a lovely little update for you on my current food and health journey. So I hope you enjoyed. Thanks so much for being here and I will see you all tomorrow for a new Everyday May video. Bye! Le chef's kiss.